They say fortune favors the bold, but to be bold, you have to have the audacity to believe in your own potential. Even when the data suggests that you're just a nerd from the 10th grade, will never land the girl or the dream career. Most people see the world as a series of dystopian what ifs. I choose the different HUD. I choose the Star Trek perspective. The belief that hunger, greed, and even our own self imposed limitations are obstacles meant to be phased out. Today on Rebuilding Rob, we're talking about the audacity of potential. It's the policy of asking, why the fuck not? And the grit required to string together victories, even after you have failed spectacularly. Because if you aren't willing to fail, you'll never know what level of potential you actually possess. Season 2, Episode 3 starts now. Let's look toward the horizon. I was looking at the literal definition of audacity today. It's a funny word because it actually has two faces. The first is a willingness to take bold risks, but the second is rude or disrespectful behavior, impudent. Think about that. To the rest of the world, your boldness can look like disrespect. You stop accepting breadcrumbs. You set a 100% policy, or when you decide you're going after a goal that everyone else thinks is out of your league, people are going to call you audacious. And they don't always mean it as a compliment. Personally, I define audacity as boldness that flirts with foolishness. It's that Kennedy mindset, looking at things that never were and asking, why not? Is it naive? Maybe. Does it flirt with being a little bit foolish? Absolutely. But if your goals don't look a little far-fetched to the people standing on the sidelines, then you probably aren't shooting high enough. You're just playing it safe in the dystopia of the status quo. It's easy to listen to Bobby Kennedy or watch Captain Picard and feel inspired. It's easy to look at a fictional 24th century and say, yeah, hope is great, but the real audacity doesn't happen in a script or in a history book. It happens in the mirror. For a long time, I looked at my own potential through a cracked lens. I was the nerd who thought a steady relationship or a real career was about as likely as me landing on the moon. I was looking at the dystopia of my own insecurities and asking why. But then I started asking, why not? I decided to stop presenting the version of myself I thought the world expected, and started leaning into the version I knew was tucked away inside. I started treating my life like a series of mission objectives. And you know what happens when a nerd stops apologizing for being a nerd and starts having a little swagger? The data changes. I didn't just stumble into being a teacher. I didn't just get lucky in my relationships. I made a policy of being bold enough to fail, just so I could find out where my ceiling actually was. And it turns out, the ceiling was a lot higher than 10th grade Rob ever imagined. I'm a Trekkie. I'm damn proud of it. For 60 years, people have talked about the positive outlook of Star Trek, but I think they missed the point. It's not just about space travel, it's about a post scarcity society. In that world, humanity had the audacity to say enough. They eliminated hunger, greed, and homelessness. They decided that the dystopian future, the one where we're all fighting over scraps in a wasteland, wasn't inevitable. I think about that guy on TikTok who wears a Star Trek shirt. When he's asked, why Star Trek? He lists every other sci fi franchise that shows a dark, miserable future. He says, I choose Star Trek because it has hope. That is my socio-political North Star. I know we make stupid decisions. We've seen it in our headlines and our courtroom. But I refuse to believe that we've reached our ceiling. Whether it's the United States or it's my own life, I choose to believe in the potential for paradise over the comfort of a cynical, I told you so. Now, it's one thing to talk about a 24th century utopia. It's another to apply that audacity to a guy who grew up thinking he was just a nerd from the 10th grade. When I was younger, the idea of having a girlfriend, having kids, or, let's be honest, Even just having sex felt like a pipe dream. I used to tell my friend, the professor, that the chances of a girl talking to us were about the same as us landing on the moon. But here's where the audacity of potential kicks in. I eventually realized that I was better than the version of myself that I was presenting to the world. I had to string together some victory. It took nearly 30 years, but eventually I found myself with the woman I literally fantasized about in high school. That wasn't a sexual conquest, it was a receipt. It was proof that when you think outside the box and when you're willing to risk looking like a fool, you can achieve things you once thought were impossible. I did exactly what I went to college for. I became a teacher. I had the kids. I lived the life. I failed spectacularly at times, for sure. But, as Yoda says, the greatest teacher failure is. You'll never know your level of potential if you're too scared to try. Wow, we have covered a lot of ground today, from the 24th century to the 10th grade fantasies, but it all comes back to that one word: audacity. If you're sitting there in your car or at your desk thinking your best days are behind you, or that your potential has an expiration date, I want you to lean into the foolishness. Ask, why not? Question the status quo of your own life. Because if you don't have the audacity to believe you're capable of more, you're essentially choosing that dystopian ending before the story is even over. Remember the words of Virgil: fortune favors the bold, not the careful, not the cynical, not the ones waiting for permission. It favors the ones gutsy enough to string together a few victories, even if they have to fail spectacularly to get there. I'm Rob, and this is Rebuilding Rob, the podcast. Keep looking forward to the horizon, keep choosing yourself, and god damn it, have the audacity to be a little foolish this week. I will see you in the next one. This episode of Rebuilding Rob, the podcast, was produced, edited, written, and hosted by yours truly, your favorite blogger, a guy named Rob. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I'm well aware that, like me, you have a ton of podcast listening options, so I'm honored that you decided to take a little bit of time out of your day to spend with me. Rebuilding Rob, the podcast, is available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Of course, you probably figured that out already, or else you wouldn't be listening to me now. If you're interested in more insight into this perfectly ordinary, non-gun-owning white guy, be sure to check out my blog, rebuildingrob.com. So until next time, this is Rob reminding you to be audacious, be bold, be brave, be strong enough to be gentle, and remember, the rebuild never ends. Bye, everybody.